Set your soul ablaze as you are lured into the realm of pyromania and prestidigitation. For over 10 years, Antonio Restivo has headlined shows on the Las Vegas Strip, blending fire performance with mind-blowing magic to transport you into a shadowy world of illusion.
But it was also very polished.
I would even buy a ticket to see you in Vegas.
I was very impressed.
We always say, where is the big magic showman? And I think it's you, Antonio.
For more information, visit AntonioRestivo.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We will start exactly at 8 o'clock. Thank you. Antonio, there's a fan in the background, just FYI. It's like spinning around. It could be distracting.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I'm so technologically intelligent.
No worries. I know it's probably hot.
No, I'm just trying to figure this out because my phone said it was dying.
Oh.
Just as it was on 20%, so I needed to try to plug it in.
Okay.
So now let me see if this works. Okay, let me make sure my phone's plugged in so I don't die.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, cool. Is that better?
Yes, we're
better?
good. Oh, yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear some stuff in the background. We're working on it, but our goal is to start at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
So we're live in 4 minutes?
Yes, in a couple minutes.
Cool.
Set your soul ablaze as you are lured into the realm of pyromania and prestidigitation. For over 10 years, Antonio Restivo has headlined shows on the Las Vegas Strip, blending fire performance with mind-blowing magic to transport you into a shadowy world of illusion.
so very polished.
I would even buy a ticket to see you in Vegas.
I was very impressed.
We always say, where is the big magic showman? And I think it's you, Antonio.
Yes. Wow. You know what? You're already on the screen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ray Salem, Real Talk with the one and only Antonio Restivo. He needs no introduction. He's been in Vegas for years. He was on American Got Talent. He made it to the semifinal. I was rooting for you, Antonio.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. So, man, think of being on the show. You gotta tell me. Playing with fire? Come on. How'd you get into it?
I was probably around 8 years old, and I was playing it with my best friend in his backyard. He and his father and his brother built this fort, and I said, well, what if somebody attacked your fort, you know? And he's like, nobody would attack my fort. And I found matches in the house, and I set the fort on fire, and I burned down 6 acres of property. And so either it had to be a career, or I was going to end up being in jail.
But when did you like it kind of like hits you like, oh, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do? Like what was
probably close to 25 plus years ago. I was living in a van traveling cross country, and I met this woman that was spinning poi. Her name was Amber, and there was like 3 people in the country that were spinning fire at the time, and I begged her to teach me, and she taught me over a weekend. And when we first started, we had these 2 like wooden balls attached to chains. So the first weekend you would spin, your fingers were bleeding, you built up calluses, and then I started spinning fire and loved it, and then got into the teaching people fire safety, as well as teaching fire spinning classes. And then I stopped in Vegas for 3 days, and I've been here for close to 17 years now, 17 years.
And the funny thing is, you have all your hair and you play with fire. What is the trick? What is it?
I'm just really good at what I do.
Okay. And
like your microphones are awesome, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So my hair has to complement you. I have to be really good at what I do, so I can still keep my facial hair. So that way, if I go to teaching safety, I'm good, because if I'm breathing fire with all this, so. You
ever got burnt before?
Yeah.
Oh, really? What happened?
Yeah, so one time I had this really bright idea that I could spin fire and do a move called the butterfly. And the butterfly is when you're spinning poi, and the poi chains come up and down, so it looks like an illusion that it's like one big circle. And I thought, how fun would it be to fire breathe and then move those behind my back, so it looked like I was dragging. And when I went to fire breathe, my momentum of my body moved forward, which caused the fireballs to come back, and they hit me in the face as I was breathing fire, and my whole face caught fire.
Was it during the show?
Yeah, it was during a show. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! And would you do like the show must go on, like while your eyebrows are on fire?
Keep going.
Oh, you're a soldier. I would have been crying like, oh no, I don't want to do this no more.
Well, one time I was in, this isn't fire related, but one time I was doing Tournament of Kings at the Excalibur, which is the show that I was in until the whole world shut down. And I have this flaming sword, and I take the sword and I stab it in the ground, and Christopher, the good guy, picks it up and he presses a button and the sword catches on fire. Well, that night I wasn't paying attention, and when I went to stick it in the ground, I actually stuck it through my foot. Yeah. And then I pulled it out, stuck it back in the ground.
Was it bleeding?
All the way through. It went all the way through the sole of my foot. Like, I stuck it hard, and I heard the leather of my boot rip, and I was like, oh no, so I pulled it out and I stuck it in the ground, and then my whole foot got warm, and I grabbed one of the wardrobe ladies. I went backstage and I was like, listen, I'm going to take my boot off. I'm going to take my sock off. If a toe falls away from my foot,
that's mine.
I'm going to need help. I'm gonna need help. And I pulled it off, and like, so if it's on my foot, it's like right here, went right between my big toe and my second toe, and it went all the way through, and I was bleeding all the way through on my foot. And I just
don't tell me you did the whole show like that. You kept going.
The whole show. Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I already respect you, but now I respect you even more. You did it with a busted foot. The show must go on. Is like, you guys take it literal.
Yeah. But
wasn't like blood like dripping?
My whole foot was full. Yeah, but I put a brand new sock on, and I put my boots back on, and I just tightened it up and finished the show. And then
you put duct tape on it. You put duct tape. Wow. Then I just went to the ER, and they just they cleaned it out, and they put super glue on it, and that was it. I was done. But it's a pretty cool scar. All right. So what did you tell the nurse or the doctor the story? Like, how did you stab your foot? What was the story?
That's not even the best story, but that's exactly what I told them. I said, I took a sword and I stuck a sword through my foot. And they were like, no, come on, really, what happened? I was like, no, I'm in the show, Tournament of Kings, you know? So, yeah, one time I was doing Tournament of Kings. I was actually, I was doing my first entrance of Tournament of Kings. And the first entrance, you've seen the show?
I heard of it, but I'll definitely watch it after today.
So my first scene in the show, I come out and I make this big entrance, and I make a torch magically catch on fire, and then I shoot like a 25-foot fireball out of my hand, right? And then I completely disappear. It's amazing first entrance. The first entrance, my entrance in Tournament of Kings at the Excalibur when the world reopens. It's great, totally worth seeing. So one time I was doing it, and I went to shoot the fire at my hands with the torch, and the torch hit the nozzle, and it sprayed back and went down my throat. And and I finished the show, and then like the next day I really couldn't talk, and I went to the doctor, and he was like, well, what happened? I said, well, I swallowed a fireball. He's like, come on, really, what happened? I was like, no, really. This is what I do for a living. Like, I swallowed and I told him about the thing. He's like, come on. I'm like, no. So he did the whole tongue depressor thing, and I had a hole in my esophagus where sometimes I would drink water and it would go up the side of my head. It was crazy. And then I did 24 hours, and I didn't say a word in 24 hours. I was like, let me give my throat like a full day to heal, because I know our body regenerates. You know, our bodies regenerate. If we get out of the way, our bodies will heal itself.
Absolutely. We're our own best medicine, believe it or not.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And so I gave myself 24 hours without speaking, and I had to go to like the DMV, and I had all kinds of crazy stuff I had to do, but I took 24 hours of not speaking.
So how'd you do it? Just wrote it down? Just told them?
Like what we almost had to do. I brought a pen and paper and like a notebook. And I still have the notebook. I have to search for it, but I still have the notebook where I write down, hey, my esophagus is down. I have a hole in my esophagus. I can't speak. And I show them the note, and they would answer me because obviously I can still hear. And I went 24 hours. It was very interesting. If you've never done it, I completely recommend it. It's a whole new challenge in your life. Like, one day, take away your phone. One day, take away talking. Take a day for yourself where you don't have to necessarily interact with anybody else. Because you and I were talking earlier, and when I was a kid, and when you were younger, we didn't have, cell phones and answering machines, and if you weren't there, you weren't there, and sometimes you need to take a day just for yourself and let go of the rest of the world.
No, I think I did it for 2 days.
Yeah?
And it was so peaceful. It was. I listened a lot. I was like, but go ahead and talk to me. And it was awesome. But by the end of the second day, I got slapped. Like, come on, dude, you got to talk.
I love it. Yeah,
all right,
so what it does for you.
So you got into the fire world, and what made you think, like, you know what? Let me try for American Got Talent. You always tried it, or was that the first season you tried it?
No, they actually. That was the first year I did America's Got Talent, and they actually called me.
Oh, wow.
I was rehearsing for a show that I was doing, and they called me on the phone, and they said, "Hey, we want you to audition for the show." And I was like, "Okay, like next year." I was thinking like a year away, they said, no, we have a show in Chicago we want you to audition for. We want to fly you in with your team and bring you in. And that show was like a month away. And I was like, okay, I could do that like a month away. They called me back a couple hours later and they said, hey, we need to move the show to New York because Chicago has such strict fire laws that you can't do fire on stage.
Okay.
So from the day that I talked to them on the phone, that show that you saw on the internet or live on TV or whatever was 10 days later. So 10 days. So they immediately, like the next day, sent a truck out to go pick up my props. So we never got a full rehearsal. The first full rehearsal we had with fire was what you see live on TV. That was the very first one. So, yeah, so they
it looked pretty good. It was pretty good. Everybody was in awe.
It was fun to do. It was fun to do. My best part, my most fun. I mean, the judges were awesome. Everybody treated me so well. But one of the best parts about going to New York and doing it in New York is because obviously I'm from New York. I'm from Brooklyn. Was when the fire marshal came to come see my show and what I do. He said, well, and I brought out like one of my big stabs, and he's like, well, what does this do? And I said, well, this shoots like a 25-foot fireball, across the stage. And he's like, no way. And I was like, yes way. So he actually stopped traffic behind the theater that we were doing. He stopped traffic. He had me fill it up, and then he had me fire it across the street, across the street. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. So, and then he grabbed it. He wanted to fire it once and see what it felt like, because he had to test it to make sure it was okay, And yeah, that was I
can only imagine for your neighbors, because I was watching some of your videos on Facebook. And by the way, whoever's listening, you got to go on his Facebook and check out. Sometimes he does some cool stuff. So your neighbors never complained? Like, hello, this guy is shooting fire in his backyard.
No. My neighbors actually sometimes come out and watch.
Oh, okay.
I actually, I love my neighbors, and I get along really well with my neighbors. When I first moved into this house, I had to set the bar really, really high. So the first day I moved in, I said, here we go. Like, either my neighbors are going to love me or they're going to completely hate me. So the first day, like, I took some big fire props that I had that shoot like 20, 30 feet in the air. And I went into the backyard and I just started firing things off like randomly, Like 20 minutes later, I hear the knock at the door and I'm like, okay, because I'm preparing myself for it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to explain to them this is what I do for a living and this is who I am. And, because nobody really knew me back then. And my neighbor came in and it was him and his 2 young daughters. And they're like, hey, we saw you blowing some stuff up in the backyard. And I was like, yeah, I'm a fire performer. I work at the Excalibur. I work at the Stratosphere. It's like, can we come back and hang out and watch? And I was like, come on in. Here we go. What can I get you to drink?
Nice.
Yeah. So that was real fun.
That is so awesome.
And because I have like, if you ever drive by my house, I have like these 2 big dragons in the front of my house. And, my house is very, very funky and gothic, old gothic gates, so I think I put a little sense of like security in the neighborhood too, because like I'm like the bad guy, and I'm everybody's friend, But every couple nights I'll light something on fire in my backyard. When we first went into the quarantine, I did 30 days, actually 31 days of doing fire, and I did some kind of fire every night in my backyard. And now I got a couple more things I want to do. But my neighbors know when it's going to happen, and they usually pop their lights on, or they'll come outside and just watch. And, sometimes they'll applaud, sometimes they'll cheer, scream, whatever. It's all good. So.
Oh, man. If I was your neighbor, I'll probably never go out for a movie. Hey, honey, let's grab some dinner. Let's go watch Antonio.
Let's get the free show right next door. So, yeah, it's fun.
Okay, so you did that, and I love it when I see somebody doing something they enjoy and love. Does it ever get old for you while you're going through the journey?
No, not at all. Because there's always new stuff to do. There's always new stuff to take care of. I love what I do, and it's always fresh and always fun because I'm always it gives me a chance to invent new things and come up with new concepts and new ideas for fire. And like my very couple first nights, I started doing some colored fires and some colored fuels, and and I love it because like I'll still do kids parties like in February every year. One of my closest friends, his son is 10 this year, or was 10 this year, and I'll do his birthday party. And I'll set up a full fire show and a full magic show, and I'll make him the magician, and I'll just be his like cool assistant, and I'll set him up with a cape and all kinds of cool tricks. And like not last year, the year before, we did this really awesome sawing in half where we cut his sister in half, and he did the trick, but he kind of messed up a little bit because when I pulled the center part of his sister out of the trick, he looked, he was like, "Oh my God, where'd she go?" I was like, "No, you're not supposed to say that, dude." Just...
Mom, look what he did!
Look what happened to Noah Sensei?
He killed her. When I see a magician do a trick, believe it or not, I don't want to know how he did it, because I did the mistake of like, oh, let me Google how he did it, and I'm so disappointed. Like, what? How do you want to know? Just
right.
Happy.
I have to tell you honestly, as a magician, my wife gets a lot of what I do. She sees it over and over again, and when we go to a magic show, sometimes she'll ask me, and I'll say, do you
don't
want
want
to know?
You really don't know.
You're going to lose it forever. You're never going to have that magic, that mysticism, that, oh my God, how did you do that? You're never going to have that again once you know how it's done. And when you know how it's done, it's ridiculous. 9 times out of 10, it's absolutely ridiculous at how it's done. And it spoils it, and you should never know. So
no, actually, isn't that the magician rule number 1? Don't tell your secret.
Right. Well, I have to share with the person that I sleep with.
Or you'd be sleeping on the couch. Oh yeah, you want to keep that secret? Okay.
I don't want the pillow over my face.
Inside joke. Well, it sounds like she's extremely very supportive. Do you think she played a big role as you go through during this journey?
Wait, say that one more time. I missed it.
No, it sounds like she's extremely supportive. Do you think she played a big role while you're going down this journey?
I started this journey long before I met my wife, but she is super supportive and she's super fun. Like, she does these. She's done a couple of videos with me where she'll dress up as me, and she'll do like like I'll bring some of my props out and she'll control them with her hands, and so she's super fun and she has a great attitude with everything, and she wants to try almost everything. So I'm getting to the point where I want to light her on fire. So I'm like, come on, let's just light your arm on fire. Let's try it. So she's lit her hand on fire, and I did a wedding a couple of months ago in Hawaii, and I do this. I kind of have this famous shot where the couple get together and they kiss, and then I'll breathe a fireball right behind them, with the right background, with the right lighting, and the outside just at dusk or something like that. It looks really cool. And I did this gig for this couple, and they're a famous couple, like 2 rock stars. And after I did the fire breathing, she was like, "Well, how do you do that stuff when you light your hand on fire?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll show you." So I lit a little torch, and then like all of her guests were like coming up and like touching the fire, and I was like, "This is part of my safety class. This is what I teach people when I teach safety class. You have to learn how to work with it, so it doesn't. So you're not afraid of it. You don't have the fear. You have to have a respect for fire. You can't have a fear of fire." So.
No, absolutely. If you don't respect it, it's gonna burn you big time.
Absolutely.
Does your hand like get a little bit numb? Like it's like you can't feel fire anymore?
No, it's exfoliated. Like my hands are like super soft. I exfoliate every night.
Do you even have fingerprints?
I hope not.
Oh, that's not for you to know, the cops. But that's awesome. What was the hardest thing that during this journey, as you get to this point?
For me, the hardest thing was when I started in Vegas, everybody was. Do you remember that big fire? What was it? The White Snake? Was it White Snake? I think it was a big fire in like New York. It was like a club that caught fire, and a lot of people died because they couldn't get out the exit. You remember that one?
It sounds very familiar. Yes.
Yeah. When I first got to town, everybody was afraid of that. They were like, "Oh, well, we can't do this, and we can't do this, we can't do this." I'm the first person to say, if I go to a venue or if I go to do a gig, and I can't do it because it's not safe, I'll tell them, "Hey, I'm not doing it. It's not safe. Somebody's going to get hurt. I have no interest. I don't want to lose my license. I don't want to lose my career. I don't want to lose my livelihood, for a gig. It's not worth it." So I'm the first person to say, "Hey, we shouldn't do it."
Did something happen that pushed you to this point?
Say again?
Did something happen that made you become that cautious?
No, I've just always been that cautious. I've always had that respect for fire. Because I came out of it, I came to fire in a very different way. Like, I loved it as a child, and then I grew this respect for it as an adult. And when I started teaching fire spinning classes and fire safety classes, my youngest student was 7, and my oldest student was 78 years old. And he was turning 79. So for me, when I teach classes, I want people to know the safety aspects of it, what to do, what not to do, what to do in an emergency. You can't panic. Like, a lot of times when I light my hands on fire, when I teach people, when I have classes, I'll teach people that's the first thing we do is light our hands on fire. And people want to shake their hands immediately because that's a natural reaction. You catch fire, you want to shake it to get it off. But what you're doing is you're actually creating more heat. You're adding more oxygen and you're creating more heat. So if your hand ever catches fire by accident, just close your hand. You're going to suffocate the fire. You're going to kill the oxygen. Just close your hand and you're done. So that's what I teach people, is not to panic and not to freak out, because at some point when you start working with fire, you are going to catch on fire. It's inevitable. Every once in a while, she wants to come and give you a little kiss and remind you of what role she plays in this, and you have to know how to react and interact with it. Like the story I was saying, when my face caught fire and it went down my throat, I'm never mad. I'm never, "Oh man, I should," it's not like that. It's like, okay, cool. She was just giving me a little reminder. Hey, we got to play it safe, and we got to, really focus and put good intention into what we're doing and make sure that everything is good with it. So,
man, you make it sound so easy. I could barely turn on the stove, bro. So, all right.
It's funny, when we go out for dinner, my wife always says, "You should see him cook breakfast."
No, absolutely. Well, okay. Well, let's say if some young Antonio wants to get into the fire business, what's your recommendation? Or okay.
My whole thing in my life is like, I'm I know they say you should never say your age, but I'm going to be 50 this year, man. Like, I can't do this forever. I mean, I can play with fire as long as I want, but as far as being in the shows and doing everything I do on a regular basis, my job and my love for fire is to pass it to the next generation. That's what I did for 10 years before I stopped in Vegas. Is to pass it along to the younger generation who are going to take it to that next level. And I'm all about that. If they come to me and they want to learn through me, and I teach them safety and I teach them the proper way to work with it, then I want to see them succeed. And I have a lot of students that I've taught that have surpassed me in my abilities with, like spinning koi or spinning stabs or whatever it is. And I relish that. I have a world record in fire breathing. And one day I was sitting at a sushi restaurant with my wife, and this guy I know from Facebook came in and he's like, "Hey, you're Antonio Restivo?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm going to break your world record." I was like, "Dude, let me know when you're going to do it. I'll be your biggest fan, your first supporter. I'll come and hold the video camera and make sure you get it. I'll light your torch and I'll do your safety." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, records are meant to be broken, man. Like, I'm not that guy. If I have it for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, it's great. I love it. But if somebody breaks it, I'm all about it. I want to see the next generation come in and succeed. I don't want to hoard it and own it forever. I want people to succeed and have the same love for fire that I do, and if they learn the proper way and the safe way of doing it, then generations to come, you'll be able to see it on all kinds of stages. You'll see it on Broadway. You'll see it, of course, in Vegas shows, and you'll see it everywhere because they're doing it safely. And as a spectator, when you see a good fire show, you know it. And you're like, oh, that was really good. And you can appreciate it. It's like seeing a good magic show, right? You see a good magic show and you're like, oh my God, how do you do that? That was awesome. That's what you need. And I can't be everywhere at all times. So if somebody wants to learn, I'm all about it, man.
What was your biggest break? What was your biggest break in show business that put you on the map?
America's Got Talent was pretty good for me as far as people recognizing me. But really, when I came to town, I was here for 3 days. And a couple friends of mine were like, hey, you should stay a little longer. Something's going to happen for you. And there was a rock and roll vampire show called Fight that was here. And it was over at the Stratosphere. Fight. Yeah, and it was a topless review and vampires and magic. And I went to go see the show as a spectator. And I met the producer afterwards because he was videoing the show. The show had only been open for a few months. I said, hey, my name's Antonio. I just got to town. I do some magic. I do, I'm a fire performer. I breathe fire. I this, that. Within a month, I was in rehearsals for that show, and the owner of the production was like, I want to put you in the show. He got rid of the guy that was doing the show before me that started the show. And he brought me in and everything started like popping and being great. Oh my God, did I lose you?
No, you're good. You're good. I was scratching my face. So I was like, you know what? Let me.
There we go. Good?
No, you're good. I was scratching my face and I took you away. That's why. No worries. But that's good.
Oh. So that was the big break. And then when I was doing that show is when I met the producers of Tournament of Kings, Patrick Jackson, and Phil Shelbourne and his crew. And, I fell in love with them. They fell in love with me. They were looking for a new fire act for their show, and I told them the things that I could bring to the show. And that was huge for me. And I've been there. I'm past my 15th year there. I'm going into 16 years over at that show. And I love it. And I love it because the kids get lost in it and the adults get lost in it. We break the fourth wall. And it's a fantastic show, and it's timeless.
That's awesome. Okay, out of 15 years you're alive, would you change anything?
The last 15 years of my life, would I change anything?
Oh, 50 years. 50 years. Anything.
50 years?
Your entire life. Oh. You go back in time to change anything.
I guess I have to say no. I'd love to say yes because I've had a few bad relationships, but everything I've done in my life has led me to this point in time, and I love what I do, and I love the people I work with, and I love the people I interact with on a regular basis. The fire marshals are all my great friends here. Like we did, America's Got Talent did an elimination round, and it happened to be at the Palms in Vegas, and the company was so like America's Got Talent was like, oh my God, Antonio, can you help us? Can you help us? I'm like, yeah, I'll help you with whatever you need, And the fire marshal walked in, and he happened to be a good friend of mine. And he walked in, and he said, Antonio, what are you doing your regular stuff? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the staff. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. He's like, okay, you're fine. Don't worry about it. And the people from American Talent was like, what? Like, you want to see? He's like, no, I know, Antonio. It's fine. And then he made everybody else go through like this rigorous rehearsal to make sure that they were all doing it safe and everything. And I was just, all right, cool. I'll just go sit in the back and wait.
Yeah, because the fire marshal's your neighbor and he watches your stuff every day. Like, he's good. You're fine.
I've seen that before. I saw that on Tuesday. Are you kidding me?
No, when I asked that question, like, would you go back in time to change anything? That journey made me come back to today. So it's a blessing. So and that's why you met your wife and everything just comes together. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, I love the journey I've been on. I love where I've come from. I have to admit I'm not a big fan of where our society is right now. This whole COVID-19 coronavirus shutting down the whole world. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of what's going on. You know, I hope everybody is safe, and that we all get through this really safely and get back to work. But I miss going to work. I miss what I do.
Oh, believe me, I'm in the same boat. Like, obviously, we respect it, like fire. Okay, we respect it. But if I think logically, we're thinking about something that somebody will catch 1 in a 3,000, and if you do catch it, there's a 99% of recovery. It just drives me crazy. But you know what?
Right.
We respect it, and we just be patient.
Right. Yeah, and then hopefully everything goes back to normal. They're talking about MGM properties opening their shows back up in July.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's a
In
long
July?
time.
Wow.
July. Yeah, July 1st is they just put an announcement on MGM on the Review Journal, which is our local paper. And they said they're looking at July 1st reopening a lot of the MGM shows, of course, with the social distancing and all this other stuff. And it's a long time, but I'm ready to get back to work. I really am. So.
All right. What would one last tip you would give a young entrepreneur as they start their journey?
Listen, no matter what your dream is, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's writing a book, whether it's working with fire, whether it's performing in a circus show or going to the Olympics, just go for it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, because you can. You know, you can, and you can do it successfully. You know, just work hard and stay at it. You know, I mean, you got to think like, you know, Stephen King had to start somewhere. He had to write his first book, and he has a great book. I mean, not that we need to promote Stephen King because he's a god in the literary world, but you know, he has a book on writing, and he used to write books all the time and send them in, and all his stuff, like his first 20 or 30 books he wrote, you know, were denied. You know, but that was his passion and that was his love, and look at who he is today. You know, so and you see all these actors on TV that say, you know, oh, I hate auditioning, or I auditioned for this part and I didn't get it. We've all been there. You know, you just got to believe in yourself, and you have to have a strong group of people around you that just, you know, say go for it and follow your dream. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is. I don't care who you are, what you do, or what you want to do. Follow your dream, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. If somebody tells you you can't do it, call me. I'll go over the house. I make sure I change their mind. You know, we're going to take care of it for you.
Yes. So. Awesome. Thank you so much, Antonio. Go to his website, AntonioRestivo.com. You just motivated me, bro. I'm about to go run a mile right now.
I love you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you for listening. Vanessa, Preston, James. If I miss you, I'm sorry. We're definitely going to do it again. Thank you so much. And you have a blessed day. And don't work too hard. And believe me, July will come around the corner. So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.